Hello everybody, it is Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. Welcome to the Fifth Avenue podcast, presented by Fifth Avenue Cinema, Oregon's only student-run cinema, bringing you the latest in movies, movie theaters, and marvelous musings.
On this week's episode of the Fifth Avenue podcast, we discuss our favorite stoner/drug movies as we approach Weed's birthday, take a closer look at Charles Stone III's Paid in Full, and the amazing music videos of Mitski, led by our publicity coordinator, Madi, also featuring their friend Isis.
My name is Sam Schrader. I'm a 35mm projectionist. Doing all right today. I made a really good shrimp scampi for dinner. And I want to give a shout out to PSU for having such a great new website. I'm glad that they're using their resources so well.
We're gonna get banned.
It's like a sick joke.
And I co-host the podcast with...
Hello, love. It's your boy Tracy. I'm British this week. My name is Tracy Cornell. I am the co-host of this podcast, also a projections at the Fifth Avenue Cinema. That's kind of it on me, low-key. So to this week, shout out to Sarah Maldior, Guadalupean filmmaker, a legendary that passed away this week due to COVID, for coronavirus. Also, I still don't like Zoom. That's still going.
That's the theme of the pod.
Exactly. Wait. Who was that? Oh, that was Mac. Hi, Mac. You want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. It's me, Machiavelli, leaving cinema coordinator of the Fifth Avenue Cinema and the producer of the pod. I will give a shout out to me potentially delaying my graduation to summer 2020 and not taking any credits in the summer, because we can just work on our theses and not be enrolled at PSU and turn it in a whole term later, because I feel like I'm not going to be able to complete that thesis in the next 4 weeks. So let's get that graduation from spring 2020 to summer 2020.
Woo-hoo.
I'm Matt. I am ex-events coordinator, new editor for the podcast. I guess the only thing I can really shout out this week is, I don't know. I'm gonna shout out the mad anxiety for thinking that every cough that I have or slight change in my health status means that I am desperately sick. So that's been quite enjoyable. So shout out to that. I believe you're up, Maddie.
I'm Maddie. I'm the current publicity coordinator, future cinema coordinator. I have to say shout out to the one walk that I've taken longer than 15 minutes, resulting in a sunburn because I'm that white. And I forgot that the sun exists in Portland because it's April. So, we love not realizing that the outside is continuing to change even though we're stuck inside.
I got just bright red stripe along my back from the little bit that my t-shirt came down from my neck when I was outside yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. I like to know that we're suffering together. It makes it a little easier.
Damn, y'all pasty can't relate.
yeah, exactly.
Imagine not having melanin. Couldn't be me and Tracy at all.
At the same time, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to sunscreen. Still use it regardless of your melanin capacity. Unless my white counterparts here didn't use sunscreen.
See, that's the thing that kills me. I put on sunscreen every day.
Oh, damn.
My lotion has sunscreen in it, but the sun just went, you're trying to be gay outside right now, and that's illegal, so you need to stop.
So you gonna tell me that the sun is homophobic? Not them, too.
Yes! Everybody's a little homophobic.
We gotta cancel the sun now? Damn.
Yeah.
To be honest...
Sun canceled.
Why are y'all caping for the sun?
It's wild how, y'all still... your problematic fave, the sun, is still thriving out here. if cancel culture was real, the sun would be out of here.
How are we making fun of Twitter and Tumblr at the same time? Because Tumblr always wants to kill the sun, but Twitter refuses to cancel the sun? What is this? The discourse?
This is the discourse.
It's internet culture. That's all it is now. Everybody lives on the internet now.
Oh, Bet. I think it was Sam or it was Matt. I forgot. But like one of y'all was like very emphatic last week about, or this week during the meeting about Dude, where's my car? I think it's you, Matt, because
That was me.
I need you to take the helm on this because you were going to program it.
That movie is an absolute classic. See, I think it's a cinema masterpiece that has been forever underrated. The fact that this spawned from just a cut Beavis and Butthead skit that they're gonna have, and then they turned it into an entire movie.
Oh, fun fact.
They stretched it out into like 120 minutes of content, which is unbelievable. But the reason, see, I think kind of like comfort movies, how we were talking about it last week, I have it connected to a very specific and happy memory from when I was in 7th grade on my little Barnes & Noble nook, hiding in my room, looking through Project Free TV where I could like go and download movie links. And I was like, Dude, where's my car? I was like, that looks kind of fun. Like this is probably a pretty funny movie. And I watched it and I was like, this is wild, especially when they got to the scene where for 2 minutes just going back and forth.
Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude? Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude?
And I thought like something had gone wrong or like the movie glitched. And so I was sitting there like, oh shit, this link's really fucked up. And then it just
The link been broken.
I was like, oh, that was the movie.
Yo, like every time you move closer to the camera, it's so funny. You're like, Dude, where's my car?
Too bad we don't have a video podcast.
That's probably one movie that I probably was close to pee laughing at as a kid, because it supplied all of the dumb things that would make a kid laugh, like the time when they talk about the tattoo, and he's like, "What's your tattoo say?"
Oh my god!
Wait, I forgot. What does the tattoo say? I don't even remember. Is it bro?
Oh, they both say dude.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Oh, no, they say dude and sweet.
It's,
Dude and
Dude,
sweet.
what does your tattoo say?
Yes.
Dude, what does mine say?
because Ashton
Sweet.
Kutcher's line reading of "sweet" is so perfect. He's like, "Sweet ta."
Dude, what does mine say? Sweet! What about mine? Dude, what does mine say? Sweet! What about mine? Dude! What does mine say? Sweet! You idiot!
Yo, on the floor, rolling around in my like dirty carpet in my house, laughing very hard.
Ashton Kutcher wasn't gonna act in the movie as he was reading the script because he thought it was really dumb. And then he read the tattoo scene and he agreed to take it because he was laughing so hard. That's the only reason he's in that movie. Why we get young Ashton Kutcher.
That's probably why he went so hard to line reading of that.
Right?
He's like, this is my moment. This is what I've been waiting for.
He was at the table read. He was like, "Ooh, we got to do it. We about to do it."
He's like, yo, like we gonna get him with this one. Like, watch. They want to laugh. We got some laughs for that ass. But no, that movie has a very special place in my heart too. Watched it a lot with my brother as a kid, but mainly watched the edited version on like probably TBS or something so many times until I actually saw the version that was not edited, like the regular one, which I don't think the movie's even rated R. I think it's like PG-13, if that.
It is PG-13.
Yeah, it's not crazy, but there's stuff that's left out, and I was like, oh, this is a whole new world. I'm Jasmine.
In that like same vein, like the Comedy Central airing like all of these types of movies is wild to me because all of them that I've seen the edited versions of that I just probably will never see not edited, solely because they're just not movies I'm seeking out on the DSPs. So it's so weird to like know that there's just like scenes. I feel like movies like Grandma's Boy and what's another one that's in that similar vein that I was thinking of? Not Harold and Kumar. It'll come to me.
Freddy Got Fingered.
That one too.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
That's one of Shannon, one of the old cinema coordinators' favorite, one of their favorite movies.
Shout
When I
out
first
Shannon.
Exactly. When I first got to Fifth Ave, they sent me like a list of like 10 of like their favorite movies, and Freddy Got Fingered was on there, and I was like, this is really on here, huh? I was like, wow, okay, we eclectic.
It's called Taste Mac. You ever heard of it?
I have awful taste.
Seth Green at his finest.
Bubble Boy. That was the movie I was thinking
Ooh.
of. Bubble Boy.
Oh God,
Very timely.
See, this
COVID
reminds
cast.
me. This reminds me of like the conversation or like the topics that Maddie was bringing up last week about 2000 era like comedies, how they were just so dumb, and we ate it up.
Oh God. That was one of those things where I remember I didn't know about Bubble Boy, but I love Jake Gyllenhaal, and making Sawyer watch Donnie Darko, and they're like, is that fucking Bubble Boy? I'm like, it's Jake Gyllenhaal. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Like, is that what they call him?
Like, like 2001 Jake Gyllenhaal is your only reference for who Jake Gyllenhaal is as an actor. I'm like, that's fucking crazy, because like he's just him, but also he's a child because it's 2001, so he was young, right? Like,
yeah, I have no idea how old he is now, but
no,
I just know Jake Gyllenhaal is hot.
Yeah.
Yo, not Sam. Sorry, Matt. If you can, please, can you drop like a bomb sound effect after Max said that in the edit?
Yeah,
it's like Jake Gyllenhaal hot.
Flex bomb.
It's like Will Selector. Bring it back now.
Oh, by the way, guys, before we move on to the next movie, I was looking up funny stuff about Dude, Where's My Car earlier today, and apparently they had a sequel in the works called Seriously, Dude, Where's My Car? And it got scrapped about halfway through or something like that.
That didn't happen? I could have swore that happened.
No, we lost out on a masterpiece.
Damn.
It's like a Mandela effect.
Yeah, I was like, it's like that Bernstein Bears thing. I'm like, I swore I watched that movie. It exists, I swear to God. See, but like the thing about Dude, Where's My Car is similar to how I feel about How High. Where like what you were saying, Mac, about how like you can't watch it not edited. I've watched How High edited so much that and every time they say like motherfucker or whatever, it was like mother lover. Like that's all I know of, and like the joke hits when it says mother lover. It doesn't hit with the regular way. I'm like, no, I don't hear that.
There's one of the most, like, I feel like it's a classic solely because of how quotable it is. I'm not gonna talk about the sequel with with Yachty that's on Netflix. That movie was so bad.
Does not exist.
That was awful. I watched it. It was bad. But one of my favorite quotes from that is always, figure if I study high, take the test high, get high scores. I quote that all the time whenever I see people who definitely like are not in the correct headspace for being in a classroom. I'm like, oh, you're gonna get high scores? Like what? I was like, I figured if you studied high, come to class high, you started to take this test high, I figured you get a high score. And they just like nah, I'm not at all intoxicated in a substance. I'm like, you smell really good.
This is the same movie that gave us a full scene that is a quotable, and it was the Get 'em scene where they roast the dean, and that is something that me and my brother and like even like other friends as well that we've quoted from the top to the bottom, like just right there. It's just Redman was like in prime form. I don't think that was even. I couldn't think that was written in. I feel like he did that off top of the dome, because some of the insults are like very distinct. He's like, "Yo, Jiminy Cricket suit wearing motherfucker!" Like, come on, like, like that. Who writes that?
Fire.
There's one quotable that I don't think is appropriate, but it's one of my favorites. It's when they get their grades back, and then like Redman's like,
"How did I fail women's studies? I love bitches."
It's my favorite quote of the whole movie, but I know it's not good. Like it.
Okay, but that's me walking out of a women's studies class and going, "How did I not get an A? I'm gay."
Oh yeah,
like, just every.
I remember we talked about that. We talked about that before, and at the same time, let's like if you want to like you know what I'm saying, you want to like intellectualize it. You feel me? Like it could be like that's a commentary on men's like base level knowledge of women and thinking that that's enough, and being like I love like how am I not a feminist? I love women, but at the same time they say I love bitches. You feel me? And that's like and that's derogatory. So how is that?
I think what's worse, I would actually argue that saying I love females is worse than saying I love bitches.
Whoa!
Because there's that connotation of like I don't know. I feel like in the lexicon of like the internet that we're on now, whenever I see men referring or just people in general being like females, if it's not a joke, I'm like, oh, this is worse. This is worse. Like
it tastes like misogyny almost.
Yeah, you can feel it.
It's diet misogyny because they know they don't want to say that. They want to say another word, but they're going females because I'm gonna be polite, and it's like that's not it either.
You could just say
you could say women.
It's like women is right there. It's like right next to it. He's right over there.
on the doorstep.
That is the top quote for me. But I, like I said, hey, not the best one, not the best one. But it used to murder me as a kid. That one and the scene where they play freaking.
Oh wait, is it the one this is the Rammstein one?
Rammstein, yeah.
The Duhas?
Is it
Duhas?
Duhas?
Yeah, when Method Man's playing Duhas to wake up Redman, and he has like the speaker next to his head, and just like.
Duhas is a banger.
Foundational content for me as a kid, because I didn't have the context of weed. I just thought weed was funny. Like that's the thing. That's the thing though about when you think about these movies that we've seen as kids that were like drug movies. I don't know about y'all, but like for me, it was like my concept of weed wasn't like tactile. Like people in my life smoked weed, but I didn't know that until I was like an adult. I was like, oh, y'all been smoking weed, but like. As like a kid, I was like, haha, weed is funny because they make you do funny stuff and say goofy things. So like that's the only thing I associated with. So I was like, I love that movie. It makes me laugh because they, not because of the weed, because it's just funny. But then getting older, I'm like, I can imagine how that feels like for someone who actually is actively smoking and watching it, being like, this is peak comedy. It doesn't get anything past
Peak comedy.
I feel like I was just thinking about that with Pineapple Express. And how I thought that movie was so much funnier before I started smoking weed.
Really? Did it hit too hard?
No. Afterwards, it was just like, I'm like, this is just like, I don't know, this is silly. Like, I can't imagine any of them would have the motivation to go on this fucking journey. It would be like, maybe go to the corner store for Cheetos and then right back home. Like, they're not going on this fucking odyssey.
Way too much walking.
The one bit in that I think got a lot better was the part where the main antagonist is talking to Rosie Perez's character.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's got, like, the assistant there, and he's just naming off random words as, like, weed strain names. And I thought that shit was so funny, because he's just, like, totally, I don't know, making shit up off the top of his head. And I'm just like, that is absolutely how they come up with that shit. It's just like one guy freeball
whoa! one man, one freeballing. One story. Coming this summer.
Next on Masterpiece Theater.
Exactly.
Next on Masterpiece Theater.
Call back.
You know what the best part is? I was talking to my parents on the phone, and I was like, yeah, how's it going? And my dad goes, yeah, I've been watching a lot of Masterpiece Theater with your mother. And I was like, of course you have. And I was going, what you watching? He's like, oh, just this really sad piece about World War II and Poland getting invaded. And I was like, dude, it's COVID season. Why are you watching the most depressing shit known to mankind? So yeah, there you go. Masterpiece Theater is alive and well.
It's so good.
You know what else is another masterpiece of theater? Mac and Devin Go to High School, streaming on Netflix now.
I didn't know if you wanted us to guess that or not. I was like,
I was just gonna sit here and be like,
I was like, I don't know, Mac. Why don't you tell us?
On this episode of the podcast, Machiavelli withholds information for way too long while everyone stares at them in confusion.
I just love, like, I watched an interview after bringing this movie up with Snoop Dogg being like, I wrote Young, Wild, and Free and went, yo, let's make a movie. Like, that's it. Was just like, I want to make a movie. And everyone's like, what is it going to be? And it's like, we'll have Wiz Khalifa, and his whole thing is smoking weed, right? So he won't smoke weed, but I will be the influence. I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's brilliant on paper.
Yeah, no.
Did Snoop Doggy Dogg direct this film and write it, or did he only influence the screenplay? Because that kind of reminds me of, like, The Players Club with Ice Cube, because it's his only directorial film.
Yeah, because he wrote like Friday, but didn't direct it, right? Yeah, he didn't direct Friday.
Yeah.
Did he direct it by himself?
Yeah, I think so.
The Players Club, yeah.
Yeah,
it's his directorial debut and his only film.
And it's fire.
Going back...
I think Snoop Dogg just had fun and went, I would like to make more money while having fun. And I didn't realize the joke on the high school being, like, and Hale was like, it's a tribute because my brother Nate Dogg, who was Nathan Hale, passed away before this movie was released. Also, it sounds like inhale like you do with weed. I'm like, yeah, you get it, Snoop Dogg, you're good. Like, you could have just gone with the wordplay. You made it sound really sincere, and then it went, haha, funny.
gotta mask the pain.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this one is also like that good timing of like comfort in going, Wiz Khalifa is like valedictorian, and then Snoop Dogg is like the 6th year of him being a 10th grader. Like, just that the element of like,
and the fact that Snoop Dogg is like 50.
Yeah, he's like 40 years old. He's like, yeah, I've been in high school for 10 years. I'm 48.
I'm like, that sounds like a little longer than 10 years.
Been in each grade for 7 years.
Like, sir, you have visible gray hairs.
But yeah, very campy film about weed that you can watch on Netflix. It's just fun. It's only like an hour. It's short, and it's great because people rip on it so hard in all the reviews that sound very genuine, where it's like, it's 75 minutes of trash. I'm like, it wasn't meant to be good. Like, it's not.
It's literally a direct-to-DVD movie, and then now, because of Netflix, it's a solely existing on Netflix movie.
Yeah, there was like they didn't even promote it much. They kind of did, but it was just like a thing where it's like it's also accompanying like Snoop Dogg's new album and like Wiz's new album. So it's like,
yeah, I heard of the soundtrack before I heard of the movie. Like, that was the promotion of it. The music made more money than the movie did.
For real. Like, and to place it in space and time, that was a time where I was like, I was an avid Wiz Khalifa stan in the early days of his career, and
Taylor Gang.
And I'm not trying exactly Taylor Gang or Don't Bang. So I didn't want to. I'm not trying to be a hipster or anything, but I remember when like he was coming up, and this was around the time of his rise. I think Black and Yellow just came out. He was like reaching a more wider stance, and I was like, wow. He always talks about Snoop Dogg in his songs about weed and stuff, and how like he loves him. So when Snoop Dogg came in, you know, I felt very proud of him. I was like, look at that, you know. So I was more excited about the music because that's what I cared about. I was like, cool, this is like Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa music. This is gonna be great. And then there was a movie and a part of it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch that. But, we'll see. My brother, I think, said that, he told me, I think in his own words, he's like, if you're not going to smoke to watch it, you're not going to like it. And he went on like probably 10 minutes trying to explain to me why. I was like, I can just take your word for it. And he's like, no, listen. He was like, when you high, it's funny as hell. And I watched it the other night, sober. I don't get it. I was like, fair point, Roger Ebert. So I have not yet to watch it, but I know the history of it though.
I'm gonna take a moment since you just like mentioned Wiz Khalifa's rise. I'm gonna shout out an RIP to Jimmy Wapo, who would be 23 this year, and an RIP to Mac Miller, also Pittsburgh natives.
Exactly. Rest in peace.
I think one of my least favorite bits that we have going in our house, Machiavelli, is when we wake up and we like get to the kitchen and one of us will just look at the other and go, you know, Mac Miller's dead, right? And then the rest of the morning is just completely and utterly ruined.
Why would you do that? What is the point of that?
Why?
Well, it's because we it's still not real, I guess. We're all still in mourning. True. So it's like, because you'll wake up and you'll listen to a Mac Miller song and you'll go, ah, man, Mac Miller's so good. And you go, oh, wait, he's dead. And then, like, you're sad. And then you walk in the kitchen and you're sad. And someone's like, how's your morning? You're just like, you know, Mac Miller's dead, right? It's like, yeah, it's still dead. He hasn't stopped being deaded. So
I feel like when I guess, was it his producer who released Circles? Or his composer who we worked with really closely?
It was John Bryan.
Yeah.
John Bryan, also the composer and not producer, but composer of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and other films. So really? it makes the album make more sense to me.
Oh yeah, no, when he released Circles, that made it all the more unreal because I was like, oh, he's just back with another project again, but unfortunately not.
That was a pretty dark side note we were on for a second, and to move forward from that, there's some movies that kind of have a darker tinge to them that we were thinking about, such as Enter the Void, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and then kind of getting deep into like a crime. So we could like start at those more, I guess, visual heavy movies, and then move into the grittiness, if that's what y'all are into.
Ooh, wow.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, Enter the Void. I remember watching that on Netflix. I think with a friend of mine, because I think we were just in a Netflix hole at his house, and he was like, "Yo, you ever heard of this movie? I heard it's like really freaking wicked." And I was like, "Sure."
Fucking wicked, dude. Who says that?
Well,
that's what I want to know.
No, I'm kind of satirizing him. I don't think he said that. Yeah, so like we just like watched it, and I remember being like completely confused. Like it's in like if people that have not seen Enter the Void is one of those films that like people always mention the style of it before they talk about the actual story, because it's like it kind of is like very stylized. It's shot, and you can't see my air quotes, but air quotes, shot in like a first person view of a dude, and this is not a spoiler, but he gets shot, and then like his spirit technically like levitates, I guess, so does the camera, away from his body, and then it just follows around other people. And ideally, yes, it's still, even to this day, it's still really cool, but like, you know, people forget about the whole story of it all. Granted, it's not that crazy of a story, but at the same time, it's like it's like an intense take on like MDMA use, and what was the other drug?
DMT, I think.
DMT, yes, and like psychedelics in general. And like if anyone has ever seen the video for Kanye West's Flashing Lights, he snatched that intro part to Enter the Void with like the freaking flashing, you know, title cards, which are dope. But like if you have any type of like epilepsy, yeah, don't watch it, please, because there is no warning in it when Enter the Void. But yeah, like it's from the onset, it's just like a complete like I wouldn't say thrill ride because that's corny, but I would say like it literally takes you on the journey of being on DMT, and it's not as fun. Like Mac was saying, like how it kind of has a dark edge. It's not as fun. Like you would think, oh, pretty colors, drugs, high. Nah, it gets really depressing at some points. To its effect, to its like advantage, where like it kind of, in a way, even though it's taking you through the journey like in first person view of like a drug induced state, it's also kind of in a way critiquing it with the way the dark themes enter the story, because it's like you would think that like being presented with all this imagery, all of this like flash and style, like you would think that it's gonna be a movie where it's like this drugs are fun, and granted, no, not many movies are that black and white, but still you would think that, you know, there'll be a fun experience, and it's really not.
No, I would also note that A$AP Rocky also kind of lifted some of the stylization up for it for his LSD music video.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good
and he
music
talked
video.
a lot about that movie in general during that like press run, which was really interesting. I never really enjoyed the song, so I thought the video was cool and thought it was a cool like callback, but I never really liked that song, so like it was hard to get into that. The Excuse Me video that's inserted in that video slaps though, with the inverted camera. That took me way too long to figure out that it was just filmed upside down. But that's a pro tip. If you want to film in a mirror, flip it upside down. It looks real wild. But I tried to watch that movie like 4 or 5 times on my small MacBook Pro, like 13-inch from the DVD, and it was just like such an overwhelming experience to be in the dark with such a small screen zoomed in. I was like, I like try to watch it like 3 different times, and I would just like watch it for like 40 minutes, and then I'd go, I can't do this, I need to go sleep, and I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping, and then I'd go to sleep. I'd try to watch more of it. I just like never finished it because I was like, I don't know where this is going. It's just making me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Freshman year, like the very first film analysis class that I ever took at PSU, someone gave like a presentation on experimental films, and they talked about Enter the Void, and I saw that and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. So like a week later, me and my roommate like snuck out of our dorm in the night, got like really just fucking blasted, and we come back just like high off our asses, and we're like, oh, it's exciting, we're gonna watch the fun drug movie. We got about 5 minutes in and had to turn it off.
No.
And I've never gone back. I was like, my heart was like pounding, I couldn't breathe. We were both just like, we have to turn this movie off right now, and I've never returned to Enter the Void.
The
See, don't you
anxiety.
think now is the perfect time to revisit that movie?
Honestly, yeah, maybe. Why not?
This is like kind of like not to deviate too far, but that's kind of like what Gaspar Noé, like his films are like, regardless of the subject matter. Like it's always like this is a lot of information and a lot of like content in my face right now. I don't know how I can like manage that while also being entertained. So like yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is, I kind of had the same like experience that Mac had, except I didn't finish it. Like I was like dead set on watching that movie for some reason because it seemed, I heard it was a classic or something and it's always talked about. And I tried watching it on Netflix once. I kept falling asleep, but I also kept being really confused and like overwhelmed because like and we're gonna keep on like the music references. I got two of them that are completely different. So boom, the first pod, y'all may have heard that Mac was talking about after hours visuals from the weekend. There's a Fear and Loathing in Vegas references there. Also, for all my emo kids, Avenged Sevenfold did their song Backcountry was directly inspired by that movie, and the visuals are exactly the same. You know, the vibes. So
the range.
So you know what I'm saying? Because like I watched that video not knowing what they were doing, like what they were talking about. I was like, whoa, they got bats everywhere. It's crazy. And I think a friend of mine was like, yo, you know, like there's a movie that was from. I was like, that sounds like a stupid movie.
I love that specifically because it's something where watching like music videos that reference things, if you don't know the reference and you're just like, yeah, okay, neat, and it's like that's a whole movie, you're like, it probably is not good. Like you're just like, nah, it's good for a 3-minute 50-second song, but like it's gonna be 2 hours. No, I was
like, does it have like a blistering guitar solo? No, I don't want to talk about it.
This movie does not slap. Where is the guitar solo?
I was like, come on now, I need them like heavy doom chords, you feel me? So like that's I think about that a lot when I think about that movie, because when I watched it I was just like immediately overwhelmed and I could not follow I think because I mainly was trying to follow the story because I know people mainly talk about the visuals. I was like, what is going on? Like I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they in Vegas? Who's that guy? Like, why does Johnny Depp look like that? Like, it was a whole, like...
That's all I could think. I've never finished the movie, but I immediately was like, I thought Johnny Depp was in it. I'm like, that's Johnny Depp. Shit. Like, that was, like, my immediate thought, and then I never finished it, because I was just like, it's too much. I'm overstimulated. I need to go to sleep.
There's
a common theme.
I was like, Benicio del Toro don't look like Benicio del Toro. Like, what's going on?
Nobody looks like nobody.
I was like, Terry Gilliam, you a fool for this one?
You a fool for this one?
So, you know, like that is another movie that's like in the vein of Enter the Void, where it's like we're gonna let you like follow along through this like drug induced state. And I think in the same way, like, and it's like a completely different film though, but like in the same way, I feel like it is also related to Reefer Madness in a way. Both of them actually, because like I was saying before, how like it's extreme representation of a drug induced state and like drug induced like experience almost functions as like a film that would make people shy away from drugs, which is like the core of Reefer Madness, which as people may know or might not know, didn't work out too well. People still smoked the reefer. So
yeah, people watch it to make fun of it. I don't think many people watch it as an actual educational experience to go, weed is bad, because it kind of becomes satire in itself because it tries so hard to be anti-drug. Like,
is that camp? Would that be camp then? Since it's like so like naive and kind of like...
Yeah, unintentional camp.
Unintentional camp, definitely, because it's like the people that made it. Yeah.
Shout Susan Sontag. Boop, boop.
I don't know. It's wild where it's like, I think the context that I heard about Reefer Madness growing up was like satire and people making fun of it. So like when I watched the actual thing, I'm like, oh, this is propaganda, but it's bad.
I don't know about you guys, but whenever I think of Reefer Madness, I always think about the DARE program, because that was also such an abject failure.
Yeah.
At promoting a drug lacking life in any fashion. And I feel like especially now it's become such a counterculture thing where you can still get shirts and like Dare on it and things like that, to the point where it's almost like an icon.
And I thought I was so fucking hot junior year of high school in my Dare t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, but like the shirts are fire though. Like maybe
they're great.
Maybe an abject failure, but fire merch.
Yeah.
Like the black one with like the red font. Whew.
It's still around. That's the part I can't believe. Like it's still around. Some schools and stuff still use it, even though it's so bad.
No, I can remember in high school, like the Dare program with like you got a pencil, and I can't remember what it said, but at one point you could just shave off and it's like smoke weed. Like you got to the point in the pencil, it's like where it says don't smoke weed, and it's like just scrape off the don't, and you have a pencil that says smoke weed. And you're like, I'm cool. Like it was just to be made fun of. Like I know that wasn't the intention, but I'm like, dude, if anything, this makes people go, oh, it's okay, because like everyone's laughing. Like I would say Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas makes me more afraid to do drugs than Reefer Madness does, as far as the experience that they're showing, like with how things go and how hard things are to follow.
Reefer Madness is another drug movie that I saw high and really didn't enjoy the experience of watching.
Do you feel like you were being judged?
No, it's a stressful movie. Like, it was originally meant as like a morality tale by like a church group. It was like gonna come out under the title of Tell Your Children. But then some dude just bought it, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna recut this and send it out on the exploitation circuit. And then it was able to escape censorship because he was like, oh, it's moral guidance. But so it's so heavy-handed, you're watching it and you're like, this is stressful. Like, I don't want to be these people.
I mean, they also made it into a musical, no? Like, that's...
Really?
I know when looking into trying to program it, there was a whole thing, and I feel like it had to be California, because it's always California with weed. Like, I say that being from California, but, like, it was an adaptation that they thought it would be funny to kind of, like... Yeah, it had fucking Motley Crue on it. Like, it was... like they made it more like, they made it purposefully campy. Like it got brought into that like Sam said, that's like very in your face. But this was just like, haha, people really thought they were gonna take this seriously. Like,
oh, I was just gonna say, like, in the vein of like drug films, you definitely start getting into like the crime aspect as well, of like trying to pull into like a more grittier sphere of like the relationships that drugs have to like capitalism, have to like community response, and also like governmental interference with them. And I feel like this movie does a great job of like, and probably a very underappreciated job of like showing that in the 80s. So shout out Rockefeller Films for Fade to Black and Paid in Full for producing both of those movies.
Yeah, like you were saying, Mac, like it is interesting that like it in relation to the other films that we talked about, like Paid in Full is more a movie that like drugs isn't necessarily glamorized as what drugs can do, but at the same time that is also criticized because of how the characters find themselves at the end. At least some of the characters. I'm not going to ruin the movie for people that have not seen Paid in Full. If you have not seen Paid in Full, it is on Netflix right now. I would say give it a watch. It's great. It is part of like a pantheon of like 90s black crime / gangster movies that I think people often forget about. They think of like Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Juice and stuff like that. Juice is kind of like the 80s, but still, it's usually that conversation. Really, I thought it was in 1999 or something.
Oh, Paid in Full's 02. It's like at the tail end of it, and I think that might be one of the reasons why it's so good, because it like was able to learn from all those other films, and in the analysis that Sam wrote, it kind of like its connection to like noir because of that too. Because it kind of like it doesn't fall into the same like trappings I think those other films do, especially because it has such an East Coast perspective, and I feel like in that time period those films were so like close up on the West Coast experience of this like timeline that like the East Coast, even though it was happening, it was like not in film, which like kind of makes sense due to like the industry exists in California.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you also have like New Jack City, that's New York City, I think.
Yeah, but New Jack City was more of like it wasn't a blockbuster, but it was like a Hollywood production. Like the cast on that alone is insane. Like, uh, Wesley Snipes was like probably at his like the apex of his career around that time anyway. So like it's a little bit different. But yeah, like Paid in Full is. I also think Paid in Full is interesting because it's a movie that is referencing a actual real people compared to the other films that were mentioned that I mentioned recently about like it's like this is a real story, like, you know, Alpo, Mitch, and all them, those are real people. And the fact that it's also, like Mac was saying, like it's kind of, it was incepted in like the inception of the movie, of the idea of it came from rappers. So like there was more of like a different type of authorial voice, you know, like it was coming from people like that are legitimately from that, you know, not necessarily from that life, I mean, you know, but like from that area and like understanding and lived through that. Like Cameron, born and raised in Harlem, like he knew about all of this. He saw probably all this happening as a kid or even as a young person. So it kind of, you know, it adds a little bit more to it. And it adds like, I think also when you talk about drugs and you talk about like the idea of drugs as like a way out of poverty, it's interesting when you give like people that are often get their stories told for them, even when you give them the chance to tell it. And I know that's the same, and obviously with other films, because a lot of the films that I mentioned were made by Black people. But at the same time, this was made by like, you know, not just like, you know, directors and filmmakers, like with the context of how they saw it, but also like in the context of like people who have like a varied history in, you know, that type of life. Like I'm specifically thinking of like Cameron being who Cameron is. Shout out Killa season.
Now streaming on YouTube, 2 hours.
Yeah, so like it's and the fact that it was like the name came from an Eric B and Rakim song, like it's just like hip hop and rap is so like entrenched in it that and produced by like, you know, Jay-Z, Dame Dash, like it's foundational in it that it gives it a different type of spin compared to like a lot of films that were more, I don't know, like feel like it was trying to like I don't want to give Paid in Full that like incredibly amount of like pub like that, but at the same time I think that it needs to be said that it was actually I trailed off a little bit. I don't know what I'm saying.
I feel like one of the things that I was so impressed by with it is that the way that it's based on a true story and its embrace of like those sort of classic noir stylistic tropes really gives it this feeling of like fatalism, where like from the very beginning practically you kind of know how it's going to end, and so it's like the whole time you're watching it from the like rise of these characters, you know that the fall is coming, and it just gives the whole thing that sort of like uneasy, like almost like you're wishing that it will end differently than you know that it will. Like, does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? And one of the things there's this like classic Paul Schrader essay on film noir that I like leaned on a lot in my analysis of the movie. But there's this quote from Schrader where he says, film noir's techniques emphasize loss, nostalgia, lack of clear priorities, insecurity, then submerge these self-doubts in mannerism and style. In such a world, style becomes paramount. It is all that separates one from meaninglessness. And I feel like that scene in the beginning where Mitch is like helping his younger brother clean his sneakers is such a great example of that. Where he's just like, this is like, you know, he's like just imbuing on him the importance of style as a way of like making sense in just like a senseless world. And I think, Mac, I liked what you like commented on that, if you wanted to run with that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about how even like with the idea of it, what was it? Like his address to like that creating like some type of like identity for him, or like trying to like lean into style as like creating like sense in the world, it also came with like this fetishization of it that he knew like throughout the entirety of the course of the film. Mitch knows and has like a different approach to it than Ace does, but like he knows like what he's doing isn't something that is sustainable. He knows that it's something that he can't continue to lean on in his life, but he's so entrenched in it as a way that it gives him like not necessarily credibility, but like a connection to the whole community as a whole, regardless of like the negative impacts of it. It's like the one thing that he holds on to like throughout the course of it. And I feel like that's self-reflected, like in just also the scene that Tracy was talking about earlier, I think in pre-pro, of him like crying. Like there's some good quotables in that too, but that also like kind of reviews like his like not brass, but like great understanding of the situation. Like there's no like naivete. He has no like romanticization of it that is like, oh, it's always gonna be good, like that Tommy has within it, and kind of like he's only profiting off of it and he's gonna be so much better than everyone else because of it. Like he's aware that like his downfall could come at any moment, but he's too addicted to like let it go.
And those two scenes come back to back practically, don't they? Like where he's talking about how much he loves it, and then it's all just like ripped away from him like a minute later.
Listeners, you don't know that I'm staring off into the void as I'm just like entrenched in feelings for that movie.
Yo, I thought you were about to like do the whole monologue. I was like, let's go.
It's a good monologue. Like
that, and the thing is though, like, I don't know if we'll move on from this like in the edit or whatever, but I like how that monologue is paired with the monologue in the car when he's crying, like the high and low of it all, where it's like exalting the hustle, exalting the game in one sense, and at the same time, like this is where the game has brought him. It has brought him down and like untrusting in everyone around him, and except for Mitch apparently, but or Ace rather. But at the same time, it's like you can see like that almost what is it called? Not Herculean, but like that like Shakespearean fall. There we go. Like that.
Oh, like peripeteia, like in tragedy.
Yeah. Yes. So like I love having that like those back to back because you really see like the range of the movie, at least emotionally. Especially in the performance by Mekhi Phifer.
I also think at the end of that scene is the greatest shot in the whole movie when he pushes the chair forward to grab the bag out of the back seat, and then he puts it back, and it's like where the reverse shot of him was for the whole conversation, but he's not in the chair anymore. And you might want to bleep this for the listeners who haven't seen the movie, but like in that moment that he's about to die. Like the foreshadowing is so strong. Like when the chair just snaps into place and he's not in it anymore. Like I got chills.
Damn, Sam, make me want to watch that again. I haven't seen that movie in a minute.
It's such a good movie, and like with that too, I feel like the whole movie like has Mitch and Ace like mirrored in this way as they're both ascending and descending in a different pattern, like next to each other, and kind of like this like synchronized wave in a way that like at first is like inverted as Ace like starts to ascend. Like Mitch is gone throughout it, but at like Ace's peak, Mitch becomes another focal point character again as he like returns. But like I think despite like the intensity of like the I love the hustle scene, like Ace's response to that like breaks up, and I think like reveals one of like not reveals but is like a great example of something that happens in a lot of like cinema focused around Black identity, and just like the need for like not comedic relief but a new way to cope with the situation, because his response isn't like, oh, this hurts me so deep. He just starts laughing, and he's just like, man, you really love hustling, huh? And then they just both start laughing to like break the tension of the scene and like be able to move forward from where they are, except instead of like being trapped in the negativity or like the this like deep emotional like heavy situation, they're able to like escape it in a way and like be able to continue to move forward. And like that might be like a move towards like compartmentalization of like trauma and emotions, but it's like so ingrained, I think, and like that cultural experience is like the need to continue to like be able to move forward regardless of like the current trauma that's being like felt.
It's like you're always saying about Atlanta. It's like, it's so crazy. If you didn't laugh at it, you'd have to cry.
It's funny because I think about that other the Ace's monologue when after he got knocked, and he was like, "What you don't understand? Like, it's not funny, but it's also funny. It's just like I'm moving different, my body different, baby. Like I can't." Which is like I think now it's seen as funny because it's so relatable. Where it's like, yeah, like I'm not doing that no more. Like I got shot. Like I'm not doing this anymore. Like, because like Ace was one of the characters that was like he wanted what he saw around him, but at the same time he got to, like you were saying, like he got to see those rise and decline. I think a little bit earlier than everyone else, and was like, oh, I don't want to do that.
One more thing before we move on, I just would love to know what other people thought about the very end of that movie with the like almost fourth wall breaking, like self-referential movie within a movie bit.
I thought a lot about the reference, like when talking about what fucking boogie song was it last week, like with the idea of like the perspective on like what culturally it ends up looking like through a capitalistic lens, like that it just kind of gets like like it's oversaturated, and kind of that point of like laughing like I lived it, but this is how it looks like through the camera, and just kind of I just remember like it kept going, and it was one of those things like not Parasite level, but where I was like, how many times is it gonna end? Like it just kind of kept, or I was like, shit, okay, yeah, like I'm still satisfied every time it cuts away.
I really enjoy that, like that fourth wall scene as it does the reveal, because I feel like that was the best way to tell this, like that was the best way to like bring back the fact that it's like a historical fiction narrative, and I feel like that's something that's like that it doesn't lose, like a lot of other films lose whenever they dramatize something, and I feel like only that movie is able to like do that reveal because of like, I don't know, there's just something about kind of like the cinematography of it, and that probably kind of into like how far it leans into the stylistic like techniques of noir in the way that Sam was talking about it, that allows it to have that distance from reality, that allows like the fourth wall breaking like final scene to like feel permissible and not like that doesn't even feel campy. It just feels really authentic and genuine to have that. I feel like it also like is a good summary of like Ace's character as well, because like I feel like bookending with that reveal with like the opening like kind of gives the character and the actual person that Ace is based on like human level depth in a way that I don't think could be as effective if they were like closed it on like this is based on a true story, or like opened as like based on a true story. It's just like, this is a movie, but this is real people's lives.
And there's that great recurring motif of the raining money, like in the beginning before the first flashback, and then in that club scene, and then at the very end you actually see them like throwing it in front of the fan, and it feels like full circle, like now we're behind the scenes or whatever. And like it's like the final.
I've always saw that part as being like because like there's like the like Mitch seeing Ace seeing Mitch, and I always saw that as like, look at how this is like not necessarily being glamorized, but look at how like fake that is compared to what we actually did and what we were a part of, which was real. And it's like, look at this, how fabricated it can be, and how as viewers maybe we see a fabricated version of it in music videos, when like Mitch, Ace, and Rico they really did that shit. like
Yeah,
they really had music, not music, they had money flying, Hennessy dripping.
I just love, I wish Cameron had been like given more roles to play like in that era, or like following that, because I feel like that's his strongest role. And I don't know what other movies Cameron is in, but I just know that and Killa Season are like the two movies I know he's in. But like if like any director wants like a great, like there's probably no filmmakers who have crazy huge budgets right now who know us or listen to this podcast, but if you want someone to play that type of character, like Cameron's a little old for it, but he would be a good like stand-in to like address like that character and like a development moment where like that Rico type of character in a film is like doing way too much and needs to relax, and having it come from like Cameron would like kind of create this like narrative bridge in a way that's like, nah, he was doing the most at all times. He knows that you need to stop.
For what I know, mainly he only did like after that he only did movies like with Dipset and like their own like little productions, which I don't want to call them little, but you know, like their own like independent in-house productions, where I'm like, we need to get him back on that silver screen.
That was our conversation regarding drug movies overall. Just as a heads up, we do discuss Reefer Madness, and we're planning on doing a live stream of that on Monday, which is, as we all know, 420. But that'll be advertised all over our social media. Right now, as this is being posted, we're planning on it being about 5 p.m. But if that's incorrect, ignore the pod and listen to Madi, our wonderful publicity coordinator. And with that in mind, this will segue into their analysis with Isis about Mitski's music videos and kind of the relationship that viewers have with that.
This is the recording for conversation about the Mitski music videos. Yeah, so I have my friend here on the phone from Long Beach, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, my name is Isis. I am from Long Beach, like Maddie said, and I listen to Mitski, and I like it.
So, I know for anyone who is not familiar, Mitski is a 29-year-old Japanese-American artist who has become kind of part of the popular lexicon, I would say, with like the stereotype of indie alternative music that not necessarily purposefully gets appropriated, but comes from a place of a lot of insecurity around like racial and cultural identities that then just kind of gets erased when someone goes, yeah, I too feel like I don't belong sometimes. Not like that, but this is a song for me. And it's like, not necessarily. I feel like this gets just directly the first video, Your Best American Girl. Is very blatant in the title and the way that it's set up in the music video. Like the premise is it's Mitski kind of like set up for photo shoot type thing and pretty white blonde boy across the way, and then
He's very cute, by the way.
Yeah, go check out the video. But it's kind of like every white woman at Coachella. Like I would say like that's what walks on the screen and just being like, you know, we're not gonna be, never gonna be that because I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on how you feel like people take that and kind of twist it?
Well, let's just talk about it because like she sits down and then the pretty blonde boy sits across from her and they're like, oh, kind of flirting, waving at each other. Like, it seems like the initiation of something, like, of, like, sexual attraction or, like, flirting or something. And then this white woman walks in and just, like, disrupts all that and just breaks the possibility of that ever happening. And then Mitski is left to make out with her hand and fantasize about ever being that girl, that American girl, while the stereotypical white American girl ends up winning the American boy. And it's interesting how they filmed that. Yeah.
No, I really like the repetitiveness of like the chorus with like, your mother wouldn't have proved how my mother raised me, but I think I finally do. You're an all-American boy, but I guess I was just trying to be your American girl, but that's not the vibe. Like it feels really empowering in the sense of like, yes, she's making out with her hand, so that's not like she got the boy in a different way, but it feels more like kind of that self-worth and identification part where it's like, yeah, I can acknowledge that this is probably, like, I can never fit this role, but
Yeah.
I can love me and move from there.
Yeah. Also, just the lyrics that she uses it sounds very unsure of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Like ever attaining that American Girl type in herself.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like she's like searching for that, even though she's saying words like, "Oh, I'll try to be this American girl," but then it's like, "Will I ever be? If
Mm-hmm.
maybe?" Like very ambiguous wording.
Yeah, I also want to reference this New Yorker article where Mitski kind of like came out. I feel like it was back in around when this came out, so like 2015 on Puberty 2. She talked about like people were like, oh, it's her saying stick it to white boys because like the indie rock world is dominated by white men. And she's like, I wasn't thinking about it like that when I wrote this. I was in love. Like that's definitely an element, but that wasn't the intention of the message that I wrote. It was me going, man, I'm never going to fit that role, but I can see that that's something that kind of changes things as far as like how I move through the world of liking white men in America.
Right. Yeah. I could never. Okay. I acknowledge that like there's like a big difference between tone and mood or
Mm-hmm.
Implication versus inferring something. Like ultimately, if you put some artwork out there, or any work or any product out there, there is going to be an interpretation on it,
Mm-hmm.
not from yourself, and it may or may not deter from like what you wanted to say,
Mm-hmm.
like your message. Like I understand that that usually minority groups or minority groups are often when they put out work, immediately people go toward their identity to try and decipher what they mean by a particular work that they put out.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, that is the struggle that minority groups deal with, just trying to have a message.
Yeah.
And just like literally trying to say a message. They could be as clear as day and say, it's raining outside. And then they'll be like, oh, because she is an Asian American woman, that means because of her origin. And they'll just try and attach that meaning to something that's very clear, or maybe not clear. It'll always be messed with, tampered with.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably better. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of we talked in the last episode about cultural voyeurism and the fact that a lot of people, specifically white people, will take something that's definitely not meant for them or at all aimed at their like listening. Like that's not, you can listen and you can still appreciate something, but it's not for you, so to speak. Like I know when I found Lush, which is Mitski's first album, it's really piano heavy and talks a lot about like, you know, not really fitting in your body and like that idea of like, you know, you're not, it moved into Bury Me at Makeout Creek, which has Happy on it and like that. Oh, that might be Puberty 2. I'm getting my discography mixed up, but I found Mitski around the time that I was figuring out I was trans, and so a lot of those elements of not feeling like you belong like spoke to me, but I definitely could acknowledge that that's not necessarily where all of them were coming from. Like this isn't a trans person writing, I don't fit in my body. This is someone writing from a completely different perspective, and I could still acknowledge that while going, yeah, same. That's a mood. Like
right, yeah. I feel like we're allowed to like when like use like that message of not belonging and like it as a way to express how we feel that we don't belong in some other spaces.
Yeah.
Without trying to say, yeah, this is what she was talking about. She's talking about she's trans. No. But I feel like we're allowed to just talk about that.
Yeah, no, and her new album, Be the Cowboy, I think it was Jimmy Fallon. She went on some talk show and it was like, yeah, so the cowboy, like the American blah, 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 that's kind of a play on continuing. And she's like, well, cowboys in their origin were not people that were like the typical American. That got really westernized. And that idea of like kind of claiming it for yourself, like I don't want to put words in her mouth, but with the song Nobody, which I feel like everyone at this point has probably heard.
Ooh, nobody, 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 nobody.
I know a lot of people, I know my roommate Sawyer, when this album came out in August, I was listening to it on repeat, and they're like, the song that stuck was when she's just like crying Nobody, and there's a genius lyric video analysis of her talking about it, and she talked about being in a country where she didn't know anyone, but she was on tour, and everyone was kind of with family doing holiday things, and she was like, I'm fucking lonely.
The chorus Nobody was was literally me in a semi-fugue state on my hands and knees on the floor, just crying and just repeating the word nobody. And then, I don't know, I was like, let me use this pain and exploit it for my money.
I'm going to open the window and just listen to people live because it's nice to know that people are alive. And I know we can all probably relate to that in quarantine right now with everything that's going on. And people definitely, like, I know I've heard people talk about, like, the interpretivism of this song, like, in the video, she's the only face you see the entire time, even though there are other people, like, all the faces are scratched out, and it's very purposeful of, like, it's just her in the video, and that kind of has that reflecting in the song, where it's, like, the majority of the song, maybe 50% of the song, is her singing the word nobody, like, over and over again. And I mean, even if you're not in the sad mood, like I know Isis and I have both talked about the fact it's like, you can put Mitski on when you're not sad and still be like, yeah, this is a bop, even though it's like, oh, this song's about being lonely.
Yeah.
It's just...
I would also like to say, like in the music video, it shows her looking like at the TV, and it's just their torso down, and that's like what you do when you don't look at somebody in the eyes, you just focus on their body, and I was like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
And throughout it, you just no eye contact, no human interaction besides just looking at bodies, which isn't really an interaction.
Yeah.
And I remember like some of the bodies were like they had their arms crossed, and it was like a kind of standoffish, maybe, like blocked off.
Yeah,
which emphasized the nobody and the aloneness.
Yeah, no, I think the only time, like, you bring up a good point with like eye contact and being able to like actually look at someone's face. The only time she ever looks in the eyes of someone else is when she's looking at herself over a milkshake. Like, it's two Mitskis drinking one milkshake. Like, and it's very much so like self-imposed. Like, there is the point where she gets like portrait in the mail, and it's obviously her, but it has no face. And then arms come out of the wall of the portrait and are very much like, give me that physical touch, and her being like, how can I help you? Like, tearing down the wall, and it's just arms. Like, there are no other people or faces. It's really just her with herself. And I think that's one of those songs that can definitely be interpretive lots of ways, but it's her being like, bro, I didn't have anybody because I was alone in this country where I couldn't just go chill because it's people doing their people things, and I'm not a people here.
Right. I think at one point the arm comes out of the wall, and it's like the only human contact that she gets.
Yeah.
Where she just holds the hand.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple thing.
But sometimes the tactile,
Not even
simple
now.
things. Oh yeah, no, I went on a walk with Machiavelli actually for the first time in 3 weeks. Like seeing anybody who wasn't the roommate that I live with was wild, and I was like on cloud nine for the rest of the day, even though that was only like 2 or 3 hours out of my day. I was just like, human contact. That's like chef's kiss.
Good.
Like this is some good content. And
Yeah.
practicing safe social distancing is super important right now. And I think the only time there was any physical contact is like hugging goodbye, and that was it. And that was maybe 5 seconds of my day. But I'm like, damn, I'm gonna hold on to that feeling till the next 3 weeks pass, and hopefully things are slightly better.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I know there's
Yeah,
been a lot of Mitski playing in the background of my quarantine household.
That's the only way you can get through it.
Yeah, I mean,
And just like
definitely.
fantasies of finally seeing your loved ones.
In the video Happy, Mitski
Mhm.
kind of directly references, like, I think my mom's going to be disappointed. Every history teacher ever will. I can't remember what particular war it was where a lot of men came home with not concubine wives, but just being like, this is my very subdued Asian wife. She does not speak English yet, but she's mine.
Oh, if you're going, take the train so I can hear it rumble. One last rumble. And when you go, take this heart. I'll make no more use of it when there's no more you.
In the video with Happy, this whole narrative that's going on is like, again, kind of not a continuation of Your Best American Girl, but the idea of like the very like fitting I am Asian trying to fill the like pleasure of American white man. And in the video it's like, very like the traditional cultural differences and things that got held up, and the whole time the wife is kind of insecure that he might be like sleeping around with other white women, specifically like finding all this blonde hair, or like a bag that the inscription inside of it was like, for my blue-eyed cookie, and she's like, it zooms in on her not blue eyes, and she's like, fuck, I'm not
blue-eyed.
I'm not blonde. And then it ends like the plot twist is he's killing the other women for possessions, for authority. Like it never really goes into depth on that, but it's very direct in saying that like even
He's killing him.
He's killing him. He's murder man. Like she ends
On
up
an all-new murder man.
it's very there are lots of cuts at the end with like scenes of her wearing or being given new materialistic things, and then being shown the material items with the dead bodies and the bleach, and she's like, none of these, all these new things are from other dead women. That's no good.
Right.
And I definitely think it's something where, at least personally, seeing that thing of like, you can feel inadequate or like you're not fitting the role that you need to live up to, but you can still acknowledge like, oh, I'm never going to be that. I can't have the blonde eyes, wow. Blonde hair, blue eyes, but I don't like being murdered, so I'm going to go. Like, I'm going to...
I just thought of something.
Huh.
So, like you said, from other dead women,
Mhm.
and I thought of like tradition and like culture and like bringing women and making them wear these things and expectations of what a white woman should be, and then just placing it onto an Asian woman and expecting her to like it and just adhere to what the man wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter how good it was or how much she adhered to him, because he was going to kill her anyway, just like all the other white women.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of those things of, like, the jokes. Like, I know it's never in good taste, but it's like, oh, I'm glad. Like, Ted Bundy is the example I think of, where I know now a lot of people fetishize, like, he was hot, and I'm just sitting here going, yeah, a lot of people that didn't get murdered by him were like, he was creepy. Like, the charm didn't work, and it's one of those things where it's like, you can't ever, I don't think you can ever predict that someone's gonna murder you, but, like, you can still go, oh, it doesn't matter how good I was of a person, he still was murdering women. Like, he was still doing the evil thing. It wasn't me, so I can't gaslight myself into being like, I will never be this woman. It's like, oh no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, or I don't want to be this woman. I don't want to get murdered. Oh, great.
So I think that ends up, like, feeding back into that very much so. Everybody has a right to interpret things for themselves, but it should still definitely be kept in context that the identities that Mitski holds also applies to her music directly. Like, I know she's a very private person, but she's talked about, like, constantly moving with her mom and being like, you know, it doesn't matter moving anywhere in America or moving anywhere in Japan or any of the other countries, where it was just like, you're not from here or you're not enough of this to be adequate and fill those positions. But then being like, oh, I'm Mitski, I'm me. Like, that's okay. I can still feel insecure about it, but I feel like I can't think of an identity where there isn't that feeling of inadequacy in some way or another, where it's like, I'm not enough of fill in the blank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely feeling that in my non-binary experience.
Yeah.
Or just like, well, guess I can't wear these dresses anymore, but it's like, what? Yes, you fucking can.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah, you're fine.
Whoops. Too late.
Oh no, we can't let them know the adults curse.
Yeah. But it's like, oh, well, first of all, even if you are a part of an identity that is like a group, then that doesn't mean that every single person in that group has the exact same experience of that identity.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make any sense, and that's why it makes it so diverse and complex.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then going back to everyone trying to place a meaning onto Mitski's things, like, yeah, like, we inherently, as humans, we're very judgy, and we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like I said, you can't ignore what Mitski is also saying about her own work.
Yeah. Like, you can definitely have, like, art is meant to be interpreted. Like, I can't think of the artist specifically. It was one of those men where it's the whole painting is splattered and people are paying like bajillion dollars, and someone was like, oh, these two little red dots that appear, it symbolizes this, blah blah blah. And when they finally, like, someone actually asked the artist, he's like, oh, that must have been splatter from that other one I was doing. Like, it didn't have any meaning whatsoever, but people had put so much heavy context into it that they're like, everything holds meaning, and it totally can for you. But if you don't take into account at all the person who made the art, then that's not you interpreting it. That's just you going, oh, this is for me and me alone, me specifically.
me.
Yeah, like Mitski writing a whole lot of love songs and a whole lot of "Please Kiss Me." That's a big theme in a lot of songs, and people going, wow, just this inadequacy. And she's like, I would like to be kissed more than I am. That'd be nice. And I'm like, that's understandable.
Right. How many times did she ask to be kissed? Be like, the cowboy?
give me one good movie kiss. Oh, I feel like it's every other song. There's an element of like, I just want to be kissed right now. You should give me one more kiss before you go. If I don't get a movie quality kiss right now, I'm gonna scream. Like,
I'm gonna riot if I don't get kissed right now in this blue light.
Oh, I see.
Also pink in the night. Blue.
Oh my god. Yeah, I go pink in the night. Like, everybody, quarantine especially. I know I personally am a very tactile person, and I feel like we can all say, everyone who's listening, you've seen all the jokes. Everybody, there's going to be a boom in babies whatsoever, divorces, all that, but people want touch. People really would like other physical contact, whether that's, like, kiss-driven or not. Like, not necessarily sexual, but I'm like...
I hope.
Like, bro, it would be nice to just be hugged, and that doesn't have any weight in any relationship. It's just literally like, man, my roommate's cat sits on my chest, and I go, this is nice. I can't breathe, but it's nice to feel the weight of another living human being. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah, because not only am I like, damn, biggest cock block ever, but I'm like, oh, I miss my friends.
Yeah, no, I mean, people can be horny. If they have rights. I mean, horny people don't have rights,
no.
But...
Yes, they do. Yes, we do. What am I saying? Anyway.
But, I mean, it's that element of no matter what, physical touch is so important to human beings. Like, that's just inherent that, like, I don't want to sound like every philosophy major ever, because I hate that, but Aristotle saying that touch is the most important, like, sensory thing that humans have versus eyesight and, like, seeing, because that became so, like, detached and metaphorical, and it's like, dude, you're always touching things at any time. Right now you're sitting listening to this. Right now you have something in your ears, or you're never not touching things. So the idea of just being like, okay, you can never touch a living thing until, like, this virus is dead, and it's like, oh, what? I didn't realize how many living things I need to have interaction with. Like,
right. Yeah. And not even just living things, like just being at the store and you're like, this tomato, no, I like this tomato better. You can't do that anymore. You pick up one tomato, that's it. You made a commitment.
That's it. You chose. That's your tomato. Yeah. No, that's definitely been, I can remember the last time I went grocery shopping, not being able to see, because I am not the tallest. I was trying to see, like, specifically, like, soups that were too tall for me. And I was like, okay, I have to make a good judgment, because as soon as I grab this can of soup, that's it. This is my can of soup. Like,
right.
So I definitely think, like, things can be interpreted, and they always will be, but it's also good to still acknowledge where people who created the media, like Mitski, are coming from. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even... Now I'm thinking about it. Can't wait till she busts out a new album from this quarantine. That'd be amazing.
That would be.
Wow.
I feel like the last time she talked publicly about music, she's like, I've been doing this since I was 22. I'm almost 30 now. I would like a break. And everyone went, but you released Be the Cowboy. May I have some more? And she's like, I haven't stopped touring since I was 22. I'd like to have a break. Damn. And now we're in quarantine, so I bet she's getting a break whether she likes it or not.
Right. Yeah. But not to sound like a geezer, but we're so used to just, like, constant releases from music specifically, but, like, everything. But, like, music, where we expect a new album every year or some shit, and that's just unrealistic and doesn't really put the artist in mind. But also, we live in a very convenient world where everything's just, I'm not going to say handed to us, but just, like, constantly we feel the need of just more. You know, I'm going.
Yeah. I feel like things get really oversaturated really quickly because we have so much access. And it's like, especially right now with everything in quarantine, like, I know I've been using delivery services and feeling bad that I'm using them because people shouldn't need to be doing that right now. But I'm like, oh, but I can't conveniently go out because I'm someone who doesn't have a car, and like I can't stay contained because I need to do that to respect other people's space in all of this. And then going, ooh, delivery.
Right. Yeah. Postmates got me.
Yeah.
Like I tried the unlimited thing for free, and then they charged me because I forgot. So I have it for a month, so I guess I'm getting boba and spending even more money.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something I didn't really think about as far as specifically with musicians. Like, I know a big one is Rihanna. Like,
oh yeah,
everyone being like, "Where's the next album?" She's like, I've been doing things. You guys have Fenty now. I've been doing things, and they're like, "Give us music." And it's like, no, I don't. Like, I'm not gonna do that for you. I'm doing it for me because it's my music.
Right. Yeah.
So
like, I love Rihanna. I
Mhm.
really do. Like, she has like amazing bops too. I know we're talking about Mitski, but she has amazing bops too.
Yeah, no, she does.
But also, yeah, she needs a break.
Yeah. No.
It's been how long? Since she was 18, right?
Yeah, no, since like adolescence, I think. Like, she's been around.
Yeah.
So I mean, that element of if you like nonstop, don't stop, won't stop.
Nonstop pop.
Like, if you're constantly doing the music over and over, it probably gets oversaturated for you too. Like, I know I've been lucky enough to see Mitski 2 separate times. Like, once when I was like 16 or 17, and then once like last year when she was doing the Be the Cowboy tour. And the difference between when she did it and it was like in Southern California in like a little tiny venue where she was like, it was just her and like I think a drummer. Like, she had like maybe one extra person, but it was basically just her. And then now she was touring and doing all this choreography, and like she was just singing, she wasn't playing bass. So there was like that element of people being like, oh, I missed out on like when she really cared. And I'm like, she's doing this stuff for her though. Like, she went, I want to be fucking knee pads going hard on the stage, but I can't do that while holding a bass, so I'm gonna have someone else play the bass. And everyone went, boo. And I'm like, what do you mean, boo? Like,
yeah, fuck you.
This lady's got knee pads and elbow pads on, and she's throwing herself around the stage like she's having a good time. Yeah, so I feel like that's probably good. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Why don't we move on to the state of the industry, which I will talk about. The 2 things that I want to talk about this week both have to do with people going to the movies and sort of the desire to return to the movies, which is something that we obviously can't do right now. I found this ABC News article that was really touching and it was like interviews with people talking about how much they miss the movies. Excuse me. And like the ways that they've like there's this one woman whose daughter kept asking her like, can we go to the movies? And she was just like, no, we can't, but maybe someday. It looks like the earliest that they could possibly reopen is mid-June, and all the big releases have been postponed until July. But at the rate that things are going, I am pretty confident saying that I imagine things will probably not be back on track that early, unfortunately. And then in that same vein, there was a recent survey out of China that showed an increase in interest in returning to the cinemas, up 18% from February. It was 54% of people surveyed were eager to return to movie theaters, and then more recently that figure went up to 72%. And a similar U.S. survey showed that 45% of the people surveyed were, quote, highly likely to see a movie at a movie theater once they've reopened. So it's too bad for everybody, and it's hard, especially for people who work in movie theaters and are currently unemployed. But I think that it's always good to try to find a silver lining. And in this case, I would say that that there's still a lot of interest from movie theaters, and the people that have suggested that this will probably be the final nail in the coffin of the movie theater are hopefully going to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I think that's awfully a hasty conclusion for someone to come to. I mean, there's so many people that still enjoy going, and I think especially now, it's going to feel like such a treat to get back out there and have an activity that you can go see, and especially something like going to a movie, which can be cathartic in a lot of different ways, that I'm sure they'll have a massive surge as soon as it opens, with a lot of delayed movie releases and things like that. Like some are coming out on streaming services, but I know some are getting delayed as well. And so I'm certain there'll be a level of excitement that'll at least like boost them in the first couple months. Like that would just make sense to me, at least.
I was gonna add that like we were kind of like on this like resurgence wave of people being interested in like going to support like smaller cinemas as well. And I feel like if like things go well like they're supposed to, with like most of those independent cinemas are small businesses, and with the like loan program that exists currently through the government, I feel like the only thing that's really at risk is kind of megaplexes with their mass amount of real estate. And will they be able to weather like not having big releases? And I don't think they're going to necessarily get like, I don't think the entertainment industry is looking at like a huge bailout like of the large conglomerates through this. So I feel like we may see like maybe a quote unquote resurgence of not like 1 or 2 theater cinemas, but a lot of the smaller ones starting to have like a different base, especially since we are like moving back to this resurgence of like maybe not like nostalgia of 35 millimeter, but like a new interest that filmmakers have in using this medium, and only so many cinemas have the ability to do like special engagements like on 35. I feel like after this is over, especially like our Portland film community, like there will be not a spike, but there will be like a revitalized interest in like continuing to support like the independent theaters we have here. And I hope to like that trickles around the country in a way. And that's something that I like, as you were telling me that people are more interested in going back, I feel like they'll want a more like communal / like regional or city specific experience, as opposed to like the big blockbuster experience, especially if like these large studios can't sustain staying open, or like if these large chains like start to lose interest of like distributors, because Disney is kind of like not doing great with monopolizing, and they've been lobbying to like be able to buy exhibition branches again. So, and if this goes how it goes, Disney might like pull out of that race of exhibition, and in that same way like not cause like Regal and like AMC and Cinemark to like fail, but create this like hole in the market for their films, because they know that they have a base that will take their content on a digital platform as opposed to going to the theater. So we may see like this duality where like cinema becomes a like significantly more cultural thing that people seek out, as opposed to dealing with the big releases, because the big releases are at home, but the film going experience and like festivals and smaller scale are like in your neighborhood or like in your city.
People still listen to music on the radio, but everyone still loves to go to concerts. You just shift the two areas that the different kinds of media live in, hopefully.
Well, it's funny because like when you think about a lot of the stuff that is a lot of the live viewings or like live streams that these services are doing, like I think Sam brought up a while ago about Facebook doing the wasn't Pretty in Pink, what was it,
Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde, there we go. And I feel like that people are like I think that like directly relates to like repertory theaters being like probably seeing a like larger response when there's a time to be open, because people are wanting to go back to see stuff that they remember and love, and the act of going out to do it and being spectacle or event is stuff that I think people miss, because I think people do miss going to see like bigger blockbusters or like major studio releases, but at the same time major studios have not stopped. They're going to give you that movie regardless of what is going on, and I think not being able to go to the movies and it being a event is I think driving people back to repertory theaters a little bit more, if anything, when we come back.
God, I hope so.
I think this also creates a weird wave to where like this weird wave that like repertory theaters will fill this hole in the market that's going to exist real soon, because these like right now with the like social distancing orders, like all productions are halted. So movies that are coming out within the next year probably are fine, but movies that are supposed to come out, like large blockbusters that were like probably coming out like late 2021, early 2022, they're going to be pushed back. Yeah. And there's no movies to fill those spaces that are going to be made by those studios. But like smaller films on like the turnaround of like independent films like being like shot in like 2 quarters and edited in a like within like 6-7 months, like they'll have access to like maybe screening venues or like that they didn't before, and you may be able to get like some big theater like old blockbusters to like fill in those spaces as like re-releases to like kind of stave the storm. But like I think the programming that repertory theaters have will fill that hole so much quicker at the end of this that people are going to say, no, I rewatched Alien last year already, I'm not going to go to a different theater to watch it again. So I feel like there's going to be some tension that may like be proved to be like, I'll say weird. I won't make a judgment now because I don't want to be like a know-it-all, but like there's going to be real weird in that situation, like what's going to happen.
Thank you for listening to the Fifth Avenue podcast, where we come together to bring you the latest in movies, movie theaters, and marvelous musings. If you like the show today, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Fifth Ave Cinema, where you can also reach us for questions or comments. You can also reach us by email at film@pdx.edu. We hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as we enjoyed making it. Catch you next week on the Fifth Avenue podcast.
What? I'm right here.
What's poppin', Kermie?